Welcome back. Today I'm taking a look at the Acebeam Terminator M2. Let's check it out. And yes, I have both versions of the Acebeam Terminator M2. This is the cool white version in OD green, and this is the neutral white version in black. And I'll give you a close-up of both of the Acebeam Terminator M2s right here. And while you guys are checking these out, let's talk about some of the features. So the cool white version has a color temperature of 6,500 Kelvin, while the neutral white version has a color temperature of around 5,000 Kelvin. So the cool white version has a maximum output of 3,200 lumens and 178 meters in flood mode, while the neutral white version has a maximum output of 2,000 lumens and 164 meters in flood mode. And in both versions, the spotlight has a maximum output of 900 lumens, 500 meters of throw, and a max intensity of 62,500 candela. There are 3 total modes: floodlight, spotlight, and an auxiliary mode. And the auxiliary mode is where you'll find the RGB lighting modes. And those brightness levels are controlled with a single tail switch. And powering the flashlight is a 3.6 volt, 3100 milliamp hour, 18650 rechargeable lithium ion battery that can be charged via the USB Type-C charging port directly on the battery. Or if you have a slot charger, it can be externally slot charged. It has an impact resistance of 1.5 meters and an IP rating of 68. The 6 means it's completely dustproof, and the 8 means it's submersible and up to 6 feet of water. And it also comes with a 5-year warranty. All right, let's talk dimensions. It has a length of 3.76 inches, a head diameter of 1.91 inches, and a body diameter of 1.14 inches. And according to my weight test, it comes in at 7 ounces. That's 198 grams. And yes, I did weigh it with the battery in it. So the Terminator M2 is basically a multi-source everyday carry flashlight that can be a spotlight, a floodlight, and also has RGB capabilities. And those of you who own the Terminator M1 might be looking at the M2 thinking, what the heck did Acebeam do here? Because I'm not going to beat around the bush here. The Terminator M2 is basically a budget version of the Terminator M1, which is probably why Acebeam made the Terminator M2, was just to get a budget version out of the M1 because it's basically half the price. The Terminator M1 is a dual source LEP/LED flashlight that has a maximum lumen output of 3,500 lumens in flood mode, which is comparable, but it has a maximum throwing distance of 1,600 meters. And that has a lot to do with that LEP inside, plus the zoomable lens. So that's a big enough difference right there. But then add in 62,500 candela with the M2 versus the Terminator M1, 640,000 candela. Also, the Terminator M1 has a 21,700 versus the 18,650 that's in the Terminator M2. And you can see the body is way different here. It's more of a flat shape, and I believe this is a single piece design. And I prefer this body shape over the previous Terminator M1. I really like the shape of this Terminator M2 here. But it's not all perfect. Even though they upgraded the body shape, in my opinion, they made some questionable choices with the button layout here. But I'll talk about the button layout a little bit later on in this video. And I'll give you a close-up of the cool white version right here. You can see those 3 LEDs on the floodlight side. And if I move it just right, you can almost see that LED way back in there. And I can't find any information on who makes these LED emitters right here, but on the neutral white version right here, I know they are Nichia 519A LEDs. At least these 3 LEDs right here in floodlight are the Nichia 519As. I have no idea what LED is in this spotlight mode right here. I'm guessing because they cheaped out on the emitters just to get that price down a little bit, but don't quote me on that. But overall, the body feels very nice. It's made from aluminum, and just check out the designs here. It's machined very, very nicely. There's a very nice matte finish on both of these flashlights, and you can see that right there. So in the hands, I think the Acebeam Terminator M2 feels fantastic. And right here, you see a couple indicators showing you which one is the floodlight and which one is the spotlight. And how you switch between those modes is this little magnetic control toggle switch right here. Now, even though I like that this is a dual source LED that you can switch between these 2 modes just as quickly as you can move this toggle switch back and forth. But as I mentioned earlier, I just have a problem with the button layout here. Here, is where the power switch is. So this is a power switch / mode switch. And they completely changed the button layout over the Terminator M1, which I think has a much superior button layout. The M1 has the power switch and the flood spot mode switch button right here on the top, almost where this toggle switch is located, but it just felt a little bit better than having to hold the flashlight like this to switch the modes. And this is one of my biggest negatives of the Terminator M2 is the ergonomics. Just trying to switch between the brightness levels and then switching between flood and spot, then going back and switching the modes. It just feels, I don't know, it feels unfinished. Not really unfinished. It feels not very well thought out. You guys know what I'm trying to say? It just doesn't feel good, in my opinion, no matter how I hold this flashlight. I do have a few ideas that they can change on the Terminator M2, but like I said, I'll go over that a little bit later on in the video when I talk about my negatives. So let's get back to this design here. Right next to the power button / mode button is the cap that holds in the battery. So take the cap off here, show you the battery compartment, and that's another change. They went from a 21700 to an 18650, but even with that change, you'll still get about 38 hours running this flashlight on moonlight mode. So that isn't terrible, but what I wanted to show you guys here is, yes, it's on a dual spring system, which I really appreciate. I've been running into a lot of flashlights lately with only one spring or no springs at all. So seeing the dual springs, I like it. And you can see the USB Type-C charging port right here in the battery. Unfortunately, that's the only way to charge this battery unless you have a slot charger. There is no USB Type-C charging ports on this body at all. And then on the bottom side of the flashlight, you'll see a pocket clip. It is not deep carry, as you can see. But even though this pocket clip isn't deep carry, this flashlight is still very comfortable to carry in your pockets thanks to its flat design. And I keep coming back to its flat design because I think that's one of its best features. Yes, I know it has a lot more features than that, but if it doesn't carry well in your pocket, I just don't want to carry it at all. And it does have a boot up battery life indicator right here, 2 colors. So I think if it's under 20%, if I remember right, it will glow red. But right now I'm at 100, so it'll glow green. And that LED does not go out the entire time you're using the flashlight. So once I turn it off, it'll go out. And the last thing I wanted to show you on the body was the lanyard attachment right there. All right, so now I'm gonna pop up on the screen the lumens and runtime information for both flashlights. And I really like medium 2 in both flashlights, 350 lumens in the neutral white version and 500 lumens in the cool white version. In fact, when I was testing these flashlights out, that's where I spent the most time, was in medium 2. Plus you get right around 3 hours in that medium 2, so I thought that was great. Also, I really like the fact that it has a 1 lumen moonlight mode. That's always appreciated. Next, I want to talk about turbo. So let's take a look at the 6500 Kelvin version. You get 110 seconds at 3200 lumens, then that steps down to 1200 lumens for right around an hour, and then that steps down again to 50 lumens at about 25 minutes. Now, of course, I'm going to do a heat and turbo test, but I think I'm only going to test out the 3200 lumen cool white version right here. Once again, if I test both versions, it's just going to take too much time. Plus, this is 2000 maximum lumens. It's not going to put out that much heat. I think I'm just going to stick to the 3200 lumens right here. And then, of course, spot mode. You have a 900 lumen spot mode that drops down to 400 lumens after about 50 seconds. Then there's a combo mode where you get both floodlight and spotlight. And then the strobe mode basically uses flood and spotlight at the same time. That strobe is 1900 lumens, and you get about an hour and 30 minutes of that strobe. That's fantastic. And maybe the most confusing part of this flashlight, other than the button layout, is the auxiliary lighting modes. You can see right there, red, green, and blue are half a lumen apiece. But honestly, I don't see the need to have these colored auxiliary lights right here. There's a cycling 7 color mode, a solid red, green, and blue mode, a green signal mode, and a red SOS mode, all at 0.5 lumens. And I'll show you what those look like when I go over the UI. But for me, I think I can do without the colored modes right here. It's almost a gimmick in my opinion. Because honestly, I don't see myself ever using any of these colored lights, especially the green signal or the red SOS. They're almost useless. All right, so let's go over the UI here. Everything is controlled with a single tail switch back here. So short press the tail switch, turns it on, and then short press turns it off. There are no half presses in this flashlight. Everything is just a single full press or press and hold. So once you turn it on, if you press and hold, it'll cycle through the 4 cyclable brightness levels: low, medium 1, medium 2, and high. And if you double click from on or off, it'll take you to maximum turbo right there. When the flashlight is off, press and hold, and that'll activate your 1 lumen moonlight mode. If you triple click from on or off, it'll take you to the combination mode, which is flood and spot. So 1, 2, 3. There you go, combination flood and spot. And if you click 4 times, it'll take you to the combination strobe. So I'm gonna turn it this way. If you guys are strobe sensitive or anything, look away. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And this is a very effective strobe light. It basically takes the flood and spotlight, combines them into the strobe, and it's 1900 lumens. It does have a mode memory. So if you turn the flashlight on, turn it on medium 1, turn it off, turn it back on, it goes right back to medium 1. Memory only remembers the 4 cyclable modes. It will not memorize turbo or moonlight or any of the colored modes. And it does have a button press lockout. Turn it off, press and hold for about 3 seconds. You can see it go past everything and it'll flash right there. Now we're locked out. And if you try to press the button when it's locked out, you're gonna see it flash almost a green and red at the same time. And to unlock it, do the same thing. Press and hold, and it'll flash right there. Now we're back. And of course, switching from flood to spot is just as easy as flipping this toggle switch right here. There's only one brightness level. That's just high, 900 lumens. Now there is a glitch in this flashlight where if you have it in spotlight, lock the flashlight out and then unlock it, it'll activate in the 400 lumen lower spotlight level. But to me, that just seems pretty silly. I don't know why anybody would want a lower lumen spotlight. Plus, I don't see anybody going through the steps of locking out the flashlight, unlocking it just to get that lower lumen spotlight level. I don't know. Now let's talk about the auxiliary modes. What you want to do is press and hold the button past moonlight until you see the first color mode. Now this is going to be a 7-color cycle colored mode. I'm not really sure why this exists. This almost reminds me of a party mode for a birthday party light or something. I don't know why this would really exist in an everyday carry flashlight. Plus it's only a half lumen, so you can see on my desk, it's barely lighting up my desk and I'm about 4 inches from it. If I get in real close, now you can start to see those colored lights makes somewhat of an effect on my desk. It's absolutely silly in my opinion. So if you want to get to the red, green, or blue mode, just press and hold from the cycle right there. That's red, that is green, and I'm just pressing and holding and letting go, and then press and hold, let go, there is blue. Once again, you can see that there is hardly any illumination on my desk at all. Not only do I think the cycled 7-color mode is silly, but if there's 7 colors, why not give us all 7 colors as a solid color right here? Why just give us green, red, or blue? And then from here, if you press and hold, it'll go to the green signal, which is a half lumen. I mean, go ahead, flash. Why? Press and hold again, it'll go to a half lumen red SOS. As you guys can tell, I really do not like these RGB auxiliary lighting modes. It feels very gimmicky, almost like they just wanted an extra feature and just threw these in for reasons. I don't know. Instead of giving me a half lumen red SOS mode, which if you're really in a situation where you need an SOS, this isn't going to work. Why not give us a white light SOS mode that utilizes both lights, such as the strobe light that was 1900 lumens. Now that to me is useful. I'd rather have an SOS that somebody can see rather than whatever you think this is gonna do. And I think I really need to move on here because I think I can sit here and bitch for the next hour about these colored auxiliary modes. So on that note, let's move on to the heat and turbo test. All right, now it's time for my not so scientific heat and turbo test. Here I let the flashlight run on turbo for 3 minutes, and then I take its temperature at the head and the body after 1 minute, after 2 minutes, and then after 3 minutes. After 1 minute, wasn't that bad. 102 degrees Fahrenheit at the head and 96.2 degrees at the body. So completely fine considering you're holding the middle portion of the body, but where it starts to get a little bit hotter is at 2 and 3 minutes. So at 2 minutes was 118 at the head and 111 at the body, which at the head is starting to get up there. You don't really need gloves or anything like that. I've seen much, much worse. So 118, you don't need gloves or anything like that, but with a single piece aluminum body like this, the heat starts to radiate downwards towards where you're holding the flashlight. And right around 3 minutes, it didn't really change at 118, but the body rose another 4 degrees to 115 degrees. Once again, not enough to need gloves or anything like that, but it does feel a little bit hot in your hands. And regarding the turbo step down, I'll put on the screen right now when turbo started to step down and when it ended the step down. All right, so I'm going to test out both neutral white and cool white floodlights right here. So I'll start with the cool white, and there is low. Gives you an idea of that beam spread. Now, for being a floodlight, it does have a nice evenly spread beam, but it's not incredibly floody. You'll see that. So there's low. Let's go to medium 1. This medium 1, you can see it has a very nice evenly spread hotspot right there. And you can see the spill, but I don't know. It's sort of a narrower spotlight in my opinion, but I'll put up a distance between me and that tree right there. And can we hit that barn? We're hitting that barn. Very nice. Between me and the tree and me and the barn. Let's go to medium 2. And like I said, this is my favorite brightness level right here. This is plenty of light for just normal everyday walking around at night, especially me out here with this big yard. As you can see, I can see almost everything that I need. There we go. And then let's go to high. There we go. Just sweep across. Of course, as we get brighter, that flood is going to get much wider, as you can see. So it got a little bit wider, but still, in my opinion, it's not the floodiest floodlight on the market, but it's average. It's not terrible. And now let's go to turbo. I was going to go to spot. Let's go to turbo first. And there's the full 3200 lumens right there. Easily hitting that barn over there. There we go. Now let's go to spot. So this is the 900 lumens and 500 meters of throw. And check that out. Easily hitting that tree. A very nice circular beam profile there. It's not as crispy as the LEP would be, as the Terminator M1 had, but you can see, even with the LED at 500 meters, this is plenty for most applications. So I just put it back into flood. I'm going to triple click, and that is the flood and spot mode right there. Very nice. At maximum, it does get a lot floodier. So right there is the end of that beam. If I hold this still. So yeah, the higher you go, obviously, the floodier it's going to get. But, low, medium 1, and medium 2, not so floody. But let's move on to the neutral white. So let's run through these real quick. That is low on the neutral white. And this is going to have a lot less output, obviously. So low, barely seeing anything. Medium 1, just starting to kiss that tree right there. Yeah. Just getting a piece of that barn. So let's go to medium 2, 350 lumens. And I do prefer neutral white in my everyday carry flashlights. I've always said that. I like cool white in my tactical flashlights. Let's go to high. There we go. There we go. I just like neutral white for my everyday carry flashlights. Oh, and the color rendering on the Nichia 519A is excellent. It's 90 plus CRI. So colors are going to read a lot more accurate. With high CRI, let's go to turbo. So electricians and mechanics tend to always go for a higher CRI flashlights because you can read different color wires a lot more accurately. So let's go to spotlight. It's going to be the exact same spotlight, 900 lumens and 500 meters. And then let's go back to flood and then triple click. 1, 2, 3. And there's our flood and spot with the 2000 lumen Nichia 519A neutral white version. All right, so what do you guys think here? I'm going to move on to the next location. Let's go. So let's start with some of the pros here. First off, I like that it comes in a neutral white and cool white version, so you can choose whichever flashlight you want based on your own preference. Like I said, I always lean towards a neutral white for my everyday carry flashlight, so I would probably go with this version right here. I like the fact that it has a 1 lumen moonlight mode, and the strobe in either one of these flashlights is awesome, how it combines both flood and spotlight into that strobe. I think it's awesome. I love the flat design. It carries very nice in your pockets, and you have the best of both worlds, switching between floodlight and spotlight pretty easy with this toggle switch right here. Even though I'm going to put this in my negatives, I still like the fact that you can switch between flood and spot in one flashlight. Now for the negatives. My biggest negative right here is the button layout. You can hold it like a cigar like this, and if you're right-handed, it works okay. It's not the best. You can see your thumb still hits that power button pretty well, but look, my middle finger is hitting that pocket clip right there. And if you want to switch between flood and spot, you have to then switch your finger around, switch that over, and then come back to pushing this button and holding down that button. It works just fine. it's not the best. If you're left-handed, holding it like a cigar, just forget about it. And you can see if you're left-handed, you can't really hold it like this. I mean, it can be done. It's just very awkward. So in my opinion, if you're left-handed, don't hold it like a cigar. For me, I've found that the best way to hold this is sort of like this in your palm. So if you're right-handed, you can see your thumb does hit that power button. And if you want to switch flood and spot, you just have to flip it around in your hands like this, flip it over, and then go right back to switching modes, flip it over. So this works. And if you're left-handed, I think it even works better because naturally your thumb is going to rest right there on the top of that button. So if you're left-handed, I think this works a lot better. And the same deal, flip it over, flip the switch, and then go right back to this overhand grip mode, as you can see right here. So I think left-handed, this works a lot better. But my question is, why did they switch the button layout from the Terminator M1 to this layout? If you absolutely had to put a tail switch on this flashlight, I think the best way to switch between flood and spot is to put a little button right there dead center, right where my forefinger is. So you can see if you're holding it overhand like this, my thumb still hits, and then switch, 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 it works great. Right-handed or left-handed, as long as that switch button right there is dead center. The toggle switch being way up here just doesn't work with a tail switch right here that's required to switch brightness levels. So that by far is my biggest negative. The second negative is the confusing auxiliary mode. I'm just baffled at the half lumen colored modes, especially the cycle modes that give us 7 colors, but then they don't give us the ability to choose one of those colors to have as a solid color. So the auxiliary mode almost feels like an afterthought. It feels very gimmicky, and I don't understand the green signal and the red SOS. One of the most useless things I've seen in a long time is that red SOS mode. Doesn't make sense, especially at a half lumen. But honestly, that's it for the negatives. As big as those negatives are, I think I can still recommend the Acebeam Terminator M2. On their website, they say this is a limited edition. If that's true, I have no idea, but it does say limited edition. The OD green cool white version is $139.90, and the Nichia 519A version is $10 more at $149.90. I was going to put that in the negatives, why have this cost a little bit more, but the Nichia is a little bit higher quality of an emitter. I can definitely say that. I don't know what emitter is in this cool white version. So that's why I left the $10 increase for the Nichia right out of it. So overall, I think the Terminator M2 is a pretty unique everyday carry flashlight, even though it's a huge step backwards from the Terminator M1, but it's also half the price. All right, guys, that's pretty much it for this video. What do you think of the Acebeam Terminator M2? Now, if you want to check these out for yourself, I will have links down below in my description box. But if you did enjoy this video, please give me that thumbs up. Please subscribe. And go!